Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 14th January 2021. Now if you go through today's newspaper, you will find that there are very limited number of articles that are important for us from the exam point of view. And accordingly, we have chosen only two important articles that can be important for us from the exam point of view. Also, there is an important announcement for you that The Hindu will not be publishing its edition for 15th January 2021, and accordingly, there will be no DNS tomorrow. So the next DNS will be uploaded on 16th January, that is Saturday. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. Now, before starting the discussion of the newspaper, there is an announcement that in our weekly series of mains question assignment from the DNS, the question for today's assignment is: the present agrarian crisis in the Green Revolution states can be countered only through diversification towards high value crops and promotion of secondary agriculture. Discuss. And this question has to be answered in 250 words. Now, this question has been created from the Daily News Simplified of 16th December 2020 from the discussion that is titled Punjab Haryana Need to Look Beyond MSP Crops. So you may watch the discussion before attempting to answer this question. And in the description of this video, you will find the link for this question assignment where you can participate in the discussion on the Rao's IAS's eLearn platform. So you can write the answers in the comment section below, and also you can post the pictures or the snapshots of the answer that you have written for this question. And all those who will send their answers by Saturday will get the evaluation and feedback from the Rao's IAS teachers. So do attempt this question, and with this let's start our discussion for today's newspaper. Now this article on page number 13 talks about the secret US document which has been declassified by the outgoing Trump administration. And this particular document was finalized by the Trump administration in the year 2018. Now normally the procedure for declassification of secret documents by the US government takes around 20 years. However, it is almost the first time that the US government has declassified its documents within a period of 2 years only and have not waited for 20 years for it to be declassified. So in this regard, the US administration has declassified a document on the US's strategic framework for Indo-Pacific region, which was classified in 2018. And it mainly outlines the objectives and the strategies with regard to dealing with China, North Korea, and the US's relationship with India and the other countries in the Indo-Pacific region. So this declassified document talks about a stronger India which would act as a counterbalance to China in the Indo-Pacific region. And for India to act as a counterbalance to the rise of China, the US has been actively supporting India and has made India as one of its important partners. So this particular topic becomes important for us from General Studies paper 2 point of view in the topic International Relations. Now if you look at this question that was asked in the mains examination in the General Studies paper 2 in 2019, the question read: what introduces friction into the ties between India and the United States is that Washington is still unable to find for India a position in its global strategy which would satisfy India's national self-esteem and ambitions. Explain with suitable examples. Now, more or less in this document that has been declassified by the United States of America, it highlights what position or what role India would play in the Indo-Pacific region, and accordingly how the foreign relations or the relations between India and US will play based on this premise. So let us look at the key highlights of this declassified document by the US government. Now this declassified document clearly talks about the rise of China and also how the US aims at countering this Chinese rise. So accordingly, this document talks about maintaining the strategic primacy of the United States of America in the Indo-Pacific region, and it also aims at promoting a liberal economic order. Now, liberal economic order simply is the capitalist economic order which is market driven. Now, besides promoting the strategic primacy of the United States of America and the liberal economic order, the US policy also aims at stopping China from establishing its illiberal sphere of influence, and this is one of the first national security challenge of the United States of America. Now we note that China has been growing economically for past 2 to 3 decades, and accordingly it is trying to increase its sphere of influence through the Belt Road Initiative, etc. And accordingly, this document highlights that the US wants to establish its strategic primacy, and also it aims at countering or stopping the China from increasing its influence. Further, the second challenge that is there in front of the United States of America is that it wants to ensure that the North Korea does not threaten the United States of America. And at the same time, US wants to advance its economic leadership globally. And in this US strategy of countering China, India is to play a key role. And with regards to India, the US strategy is that the US will be India's preferred partner on the security issues in the Indo Pacific region. Further, both the countries will cooperate to preserve the maritime security and will counter the Chinese influence in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and other regions of mutual concern. So basically, it highlights that the China has been increasing its influence in the South Asia, Southeast Asia, etc. And we note that China is involved in various territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Also, China is increasing its influence in the South Asian region through its various initiatives like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and also the Chinese debt diplomacy, which is at play with countries like Sri Lanka, Maldives, etc., where it is developing or getting involved into major infrastructure projects. So, accordingly, to counter this influence of China, the US aims at cooperating with India to counter the Chinese influence. Also, US wants to help India to become a net security provider in the region. And for this, the United States of America wants a strong Indian military which is able to effectively collaborate with the United States of America and its regional partners. Now, these objectives are to be achieved through enhanced defense cooperation and interoperability. Also, the US wants to work with India towards domestic economic reform and greater leadership roles for India in the East Asia Summit, ASEAN Defense Ministers' meeting plus, etc. Now, we all know that India and United States of America have recently concluded the foundational defense agreements, which included the LIMOA, the COMCASA, and the BECA. So basically, they were all aimed at increasing the defense cooperation and interoperability between Indian and the US's defense forces. And all these are mainly aimed at making India more strong so that it can be an effective counterbalance to the rising Chinese ambitions in the Indo-Pacific region. Further, according to this document, the United States of India also aims at supporting India via military, diplomatic, and intelligence channels. And it aims to help India to address the continental issues, for example, the border disputes with China and access to water with rivers that are flowing into India from China. So, for example, we note that we have seen various issues as far as the diversion of water of Brahmaputra river by China is concerned, and accordingly the US wants to address such kind of continental challenges that India currently faces. Further, the US aims at peaceful resolution of disputes and transparent infrastructure debt practices, and this was clearly aimed at or a reference to the alternatives to financing by the China's Belt Road Initiative. And we note that the countries which are taking economic assistance from China are involved in a debt trap and they are not being able to repay the Chinese debt. And accordingly, China has been trying to increase its influence in these countries. And a prime example of such a practice by China is the investments that China made in the Maldives and Sri Lanka. Further, the United States of India aims to support India's Act East policy and its aspiration to be a leading global power by highlighting its compatibility with the US, Japanese, and the Australian vision of Indo-Pacific. So this is clearly a reference to the Quad group, of which these countries are the members. And we note that it is a strategic military alliance which aims at countering China. Further, a strong India in cooperation with the like-minded countries would act as a counterbalance to China, and this is one of the underlying assumptions of the US's strategy. And the US expects that in the near future, Chinese military, economic, and diplomatic influence will continue to increase in the short term in the Indo Pacific region. And accordingly, it aims at cooperating with like minded countries to counterbalance China. Further, regarding China, the US is concerned that the China will aim to dissolve the United States' alliances and the partnerships across the region. And in this regard, China will exploit all the vacuums and opportunities that are created by the diminished bonds between US and its partners in the region. Further, regarding Russia, the document says that Russia will remain only a marginal player in the Indo-Pacific region. And as far as North Korea is concerned, the objective of United States of America is to convince the Kim regime in North Korea to accept that the only path to its survival is to relinquish its nuclear powers. So basically, this document only highlights what we have been studying in the international relations, and that is mainly the rise of China and how the United States of America is actively pursuing its policies to counter the increasing or the rising Chinese influence in the Indo Pacific region. Regarding this, we note that various defense agreements have been signed between India and the United States of America regarding the interoperability. Also, we note that a quadrilateral security dialogue has been started. Further, US is participating in the Malabar naval exercise. And at the same time, India US relations are on an improving trajectory, and that is clearly visible in the international relations related articles related to Indo-Pacific region. So these are the things that have been highlighted by this article. Now all these aspects we have already covered in different DNS videos. So this is just a summary of what has actually been happening. And it becomes important because what was not clearly stated by the United States of America has now become more clear because of the declassification of this document related to the foreign policy of United States of America with regards to the Indo-Pacific region. So in this background, we will look at the DNS videos in which we have covered these important aspects that have been highlighted in this document. So if you go through the Daily News Simplified of 30th October 2020, we have talked about the defense agreements that have been signed between India and the US, and also the various platforms on which India and US have been collaborating to counter the Chinese rise. And we note that one of the key initiatives is the military alliance of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. Further, regarding the defense agreements that have been signed, the recently signed agreement was the BECA or the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, and it aims at sharing of geospatial data. And these are the 5 foundational agreements that are signed by a country to become the strategic partner of United States of America. And accordingly, India has now also become one of the important strategic partners of United States of America in the Indo-Pacific region because it has signed these defense agreements, which include the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, the General Security of Military Information Agreement, which was signed back in 2002, the End Use Monitoring Agreement in 2009, and the Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Agreement that was signed in 2016, and in 2018, the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, that is COMCASA, was signed. Again, in the DNS of 27th October 2020, we have talked about the BECA agreement, which was signed at the 2+2 dialogue between India and the United States of America. Now, as far as the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue is concerned, we have talked about it in the Daily News Simplified of 1st November 2020. So do go through these videos and try and understand the important aspects of all these issues that have been discussed in the DNS videos. And here you might be knowing that a question was asked in the mains examination of 2020 related to the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. Further, in the newspapers, we have seen articles related to the growing influence of China and what could be a possible strategy to isolate China or to counter China. And one of the aspects was discussed in the DNS of 11th August 2020. Also in the DNS of 29th October 2020, we have talked about the challenges of walking the Indo-Pacific talk. That is, what are the issues that are there in the Indo-Pacific region and which all countries are collaborating right now in order to counter the Chinese influence. So we see that some of the current trends that are happening in the Indo-Pacific region have already been discussed in the Daily News Simplified videos. And these issues which were earlier implicit have now been clearly or explicitly outlined by the declassified document of the United States government. So these are a few important aspects that have been highlighted in this article. And again, you should go through these previous DNS videos to have a clear idea about what are these important issues related to. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 6 talks about the constitutional validity of the farm laws that were recently passed by the parliament. And we note that a lot of controversy has been going on about these farm laws that have recently been passed, and a farmer protest is going on in areas around Delhi against the implementation of these farm laws. Now, recently, the Supreme Court had stayed the implementation of these farm laws, and it has also set up an expert committee to look into the grievances of the farmers. However, the author highlights that the Supreme Court is yet to examine the constitutional validity of these laws. So, in this background, this article highlights that why the passage of these farm acts in the parliament can be challenged on the grounds of violation of rules of the House as well as the violation of the Constitution of India. So some of the points that we discuss here can be important related to General Studies paper 2 in the topic polity and governance. So first we will look at the rules of the House, or how is a bill passed in the Parliament of India. After that we'll look at what exactly happened during the passage of these farm bills, and finally we'll look at the arguments provided by the author as to on what grounds can the farm laws be challenged in the Supreme Court, and also what are the options that are available in front of judiciary for striking these farm laws down as far as their constitutional validity is concerned. Now, as far as the rules of the House or the rules of the Parliament are concerned, all decisions in the Parliament are taken by voting by the members of the Parliament. In this regard, in the Indian Parliament, the voice voting is a preferred method of decision making, and the MPs who are in favor of any decision call out ayes, and those who are opposed to any decision say noes. And the speaker then usually takes a call on which voices were louder and conveys the decision of the House. And the rules of procedure of the Lok Sabha do not mandate the recording of the votes of MPs for every decision that is taken inside the Parliament. However, individual MPs can at times make demand for the division of votes or the recording of individual votes and then the counting of the votes on any particular decision. So these MPs can demand for the recording of the individual votes because they might not be convinced with the voice vote that was passed regarding a particular decision. And in that case, the Speaker of the House or the Chair of the House is required to call for the division of the votes. So in case of Lok Sabha, this decision lies with the Speaker, and in case of Rajya Sabha, it lies with the Chairman, who is the Vice President of India. Further, the division of votes are mandatory for those motions which require a special majority of the House to be passed. Now, we normally note that the constitutional amendments are to be passed by a special majority or a majority of the total membership of that House by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members present and voting. So in such a case, the votes will always be recorded, and the speaker or the chairperson will not rely on the voice votes in that case. So this is normally the procedure that is followed while the passage of a bill in the parliament or on the decisions that are taken by the parliament regarding various resolutions and the motions. Now after this, let us look at what happened during the passage of these farm laws. Now, during the discussions that were taking place on these farm laws, there was disorder in the Rajya Sabha, and some of the opposition MPs had demanded for the recording of the votes or the division of the votes, and they were not in favor of relying on the voice vote in the Rajya Sabha. However, in spite of such demand, the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha did not call for the division or the recording of the votes in that case. And the chairperson declared the passage of the Farm Acts based upon the voice vote, and this, according to the author, is in clear violation of the rules of the House. Further, the way in which the farm laws were passed in the Rajya Sabha also violate the Article 100 of the Indian Constitution. So this Article 100 says that all the questions at any sitting of either House of the Parliament shall be determined by a majority of the votes of members present and voting. And such a majority cannot be determined through the voice vote, and voice vote has been adopted for the sake of convenience, which is based upon the assumption that the government enjoys the majority in the House. And if the MPs call for the division of the votes or recording of the votes, the chairperson is obliged to do so, or the chairperson is required to do so. So, according to the Article 100, any decision that is taken by any House of the Parliament shall be determined by a majority of votes of the members present and voting. And accordingly, such a majority cannot be determined through the voice vote according to the author. And the voice vote is merely adopted for the sake of convenience because normally it is assumed that in the Lok Sabha, the government enjoys the majority. However, as and when the MPs call for the division of the votes, the chairperson is required to do so or required to record the votes of the member of parliaments. And we note that the MPs in the Rajya Sabha had demanded for the division of the votes and which was not done, and accordingly this highlights the violation of the rules of that house and also the Constitution of India, that is Article 100 according to the author. So after this, let us look at what are the options that are available before the judiciary according to the author. Now, Article 122 of the Indian Constitution protects the proceedings of the House from judicial review. So, this can act as a barrier for judicial intervention regarding the passage of these farm laws. However, the Supreme Court earlier in a case which is famously known as the Rajaram Pal case had clarified that the proceedings can be challenged on substantive grounds like violation of the constitutional provisions. And according to the author, the farm bills were passed in Rajya Sabha in violation of the Article 100 of the Indian Constitution, and accordingly it can be challenged in the Supreme Court on two grounds. First ground is the Article 107, which provides that a bill shall not be deemed to have been passed unless it has been agreed to by both the houses. That is, in Rajya Sabha, clearly there was substantive violation of the Indian Constitution, and as there was violation of the Article 100 during the passage of the Farm Acts in the Rajya Sabha, the Supreme Court can strike the Farm Acts as null and void because they have not been passed in Rajya Sabha, and accordingly the Article 107 can be invoked that such a bill shall not be deemed to have been passed because it has not been agreed to by both the houses. And accordingly, the Supreme Court can invalidate the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha that were followed during the passage of the farm bills and send these three acts back to the House for further proceedings in accordance with the constitutional provisions. So these are the grounds on which the farm laws can be invalidated by the Supreme Court of India according to the author because they have been passed in clear contravention of the provisions of the Indian Constitution. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this editorial on page number 6 talks about the actions that have been taken by Pakistan recently against the terrorists that are operating from its soil. And recently we note that Pakistan had arrested a terrorist from the group Lashkar-e-Taiba. However, this move of the Pakistan has come into question because it had arrested this terrorist ahead of the Financial Action Task Force meet, which is reviewing the Pakistan status of grey list or the blacklist. Now, Financial Action Task Force is the leading body of the world which looks into the issues of terror financing or money laundering that is happening in a country. And accordingly, it designates that country to be in the grey list or the blacklist. Now, in the Daily News Simplified of 3rd January 2021, we see that this article is related to the LET terrorist that was held ahead of FATF meet in Pakistan. And in that DNS, we have discussed about the Financial Action Task Force and some of the important points related to it, which are important for us from the preliminary examination point of view. And also in that particular discussion, we have talked about the United Nations Security Council's resolutions that are passed against various terrorists. So accordingly, you can go through the Daily News Simplified of 3rd January 2021 to learn about the Financial Action Task Force and also about the UNSC resolutions against important terrorists that are operating across the globe. And what are the implications of such designation of the terrorist by the UNSC resolutions? With this, we conclude today's discussion. Now let's take up the question for the day.